Hi, and welcome to the Friendship Flow podcast. My name is Katy, and I'll be your host. My hope is to create a space for women entering their wisdom years to learn about friendship from all their own personal experience and create the circle of friends that they desire and deserve. I hope to explore this subject with you so that we can explore what friendships mean to you in your life. I created a 5-step approach to accomplish just that. 1, self-awareness. 2, connection. 3, boundaries. 4, growth. And 5, joy. Each episode, we will dive deeply into the steps and how to use them. So take a deep breath, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's get started. So, welcome to episode 2 of the Friendship Flow podcast. Again, I'm your host, Katy. This week, I'd like to recap last week's episode. Last week was the first episode, and I was a bit nervous, to tell you the truth, and I felt like I was all over the place. So this week, I want to make sure I get my points across. The 5-step process I created lends itself to creating that circle of friends that you desire and deserve. This topic became interesting to me a few years ago. I was questioning my own circle of friends and wondering, am I a good friend? When I have these deep questions, my reaction is to read and research and read some more. So that's exactly what I did. I started reading first about relationships and then moved to friendships. And one of my friends actually asked me, what is the difference between relationships and friendships? And that was more food for thought. So after looking through a few resources, I came up with a friendship is unique because it's chosen, usually non-obligatory and based on enjoyment and mutual care, not duty, blood, romance. So stop for a minute and think about this. Your friends are really the relationships that should hold no strings. Maybe take a look at the friendships you have now. Are there strings? Are you expected to act in a certain way? Are their expectations of you more than you feel necessary or what you can handle? You don't have to make any changes or decisions. Just look and ask the question, why? Do some changes need to happen? Going back to the 5 steps of this process, self-awareness, connection, boundaries, growth, and joy. In last week's episode, I wanted to break down self-awareness, the first step, and it's a huge topic, so let's dive in. Firstly, to work on self-awareness, you need to know where you stand with it. How self-aware are you now? Are you an introvert, an extrovert? And something I recently learned is that there's also a category called ambivert. Being an introvert or an extrovert isn't about how social you are. It's really about where your energy comes from and how you recharge. Here are some ways to tell where you might fall on the spectrum. You might lean introvert if you feel drained after lots of social interaction, even if you enjoyed it. You need quiet time alone to recharge your energy. You prefer deep, meaningful conversations over small talk. You enjoy spending time alone, reading, reflecting, creating. You think before you speak and may take longer to open up. Crowds or noisy environments can feel overstimulating, overwhelming. Now, you might lean extrovert if You feel energized by being around people. You get excited by group activities, teamwork, or parties. You often think out loud and process by talking. You tend to be outgoing, expressive, and comfortable meeting new people. You get restless if you spend too much time alone. You seek out stimulation, new experiences, conversations, adventures. Now, this new category, ambivert, it's a mixture of both. And I think most of us really fall into this category. You might lean a little bit more introvert or extrovert, but I think most of us do lean toward the ambivert. So you might be a mix if you enjoy being social, but only for a little while and then need some downtime. You can adapt easily to both quiet and busy environments. People often see you differently in different contexts, outgoing in some, reserved in others. You feel balance between needing connection and needing solitude. Now, I know I always thought I was an introvert, but I really think I am a mixture. I really love being around people. I love social engagement, but I really need solitude. I do a lot of solo hiking. I take walks alone. I like to run alone. Swimming is one of my favorite activities because it's meditative and I can be with my own thoughts. So although I like all that alone time and need it, I also enjoy groups of people. I like hiking with groups of people and, chit-chatting and going to parties. I enjoy that. But I can only have so much of that before it's too stimulating and I need to get back to my solitude. So just think about where you are on the spectrum and are you meeting your needs? And I'll put these on a private Facebook group so you can read over them and contemplate on your own which you might sounds more like you. Okay, so now you might have a clearer picture of self-awareness and where you feel comfortable with your friends. Some of the practices that help us develop stronger self-awareness are things you've probably heard of already: mindfulness, meditation, yoga, journaling, reflection. These aren't just buzzwords. They're really tools that can give us clarity, space, and deeper sense of who we are. Just taking that time out of life to go inward and explore. One more powerful way to become more self-aware is by recognizing our triggers. We all have them. Maybe it's a tone of voice, a certain situation, or even an old wound that gets touched. When we notice our triggers, pause to ask, where does this come from? We give ourselves a chance to understand and grow. And here's the key. Once we identify those triggers, we can start shifting our thought process and over time change our reactions. That doesn't mean the trigger disappears overnight. Sometimes it reappears when life stirs up old patterns, but with awareness, we can adjust, reflect, and keep growing. So this is a process that happens. The more you work on it, the easier you can redirect, but it's never going to completely go away. This practice not only strengthens our relationships with ourselves, but also allows us to show up with more patience, compassion, and authenticity with our friendships. Have you considered whether you're an extrovert or an introvert? By this time, you probably have. I recently listened to a podcast by Vivek Murthy, and he spoke about loneliness, how loneliness is a worldwide problem and is getting bigger and bigger. He discussed how technology was designed so we wouldn't be alone, would always have a connection. And it's actually had the opposite effect. There's less and less real time with people. Maybe if we learned whether we're an extrovert or an introvert, we could adjust our life to align. So before we go any further, here's some things that you might be able to practice this week. Take a few minutes to reflect on a recent interaction with a friend. Ask yourself, how did I feel in that moment? Was there a trigger present? And if so, where might it come from? If I could rewind, is there a different thought or perspective I might choose next time? Jot it down in a journal or simply just sit with it. This little practice can open the door to greater self-awareness and deeper connections. So for me, I've thought a lot about these different moments and my friendships and in my triggers. And some of my triggers are things I believe that I don't really care for in myself. So when a friend might talk about it or say something, I get triggered into feeling a little bit less than maybe. And I have to work through that. So now I notice you can actually feel it physically. For me, I can feel my blood pressure raise a little and it feels uncomfortable. But now I know enough that I can back up, rewind, and know it's not the other person per se. It's whatever's in me, wherever that trigger came from is what is bringing it up now. So now I can redirect it back to me and process through it. And it usually just the trigger goes away. So someone you might feel not so friendly with, it makes it easier to accept them and accept whatever they're doing that is giving you that trigger. Because by realizing it's inside you and not in them, it changes the way you look at them. Was there a trigger present when something happened? And if so, where might it have come from? This is the hard part. So going back, sometimes you won't find the root of, I have some triggers that I have no idea why some things bother me so much, and I'd like to find the root of it. However, just knowing that it is my responsibility, not the other person's responsibility, helps to change the situation and how I feel about the situation toward the other person. So in the third idea was, if I could rewind, is there a different thought or perspective that I might choose next time? So that processing time gives you the chance to look at the whole situation and how to see it differently. You can always change your perspective. So thank you for joining me for this second episode of the Friendship Flow podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to continue exploring the ways we can nurture both ourselves and our friendships. So until next time, friends, may you flow with awareness, compassion, and connection. Thank you.